Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things magic, flavour design, and lore. I am your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
And yes, there are roadworks outside.
Get over
We're
it.
just going to have to deal with it.
Oh my god.
We're just going to have to deal with it.
Stop shouting in the
we
comments.
We live in the world.
Fuck. Life's hard.
Life's hard.
Alright, you've got to bend to its will. So how's everyone else doing today? Happy Wednesday.
Talking about bending to wills, Phyrexia.
Yes! I thought you meant our mate Will, and I thought you were going in a very different direction. Good, yes, we are marching with the machine. We are talking the flavour of mum. What does your mum taste like? Get into it. We've got a new fucking card type, Andy, man.
Oh, God.
For the first time since, Lorwyn with Planeswalkers?
Saga.
No, it's an enchantment.
No. Sagas were also a new card type.
No, they're not. They're a new subtype. Battles are quite specifically a new card type, hence the newer tracks are having to write it in and omitting tribal, because apparently tribal's dead, because wizards rules themselves into a corner they can't dig themselves out of with tribal, unfortunately. But no, we've got battles, specifically sieges in this, because the entire multiverse is being invaded, Handyman.
Yes. This is our Flavour Picks episode, by the way.
Hello.
Sorry, we came in hot. Hi. So this Flavour Picks episode for March the Machine is going to be slightly different to how we've usually done them. So we've kind of fallen into a rhythm. We used to do a Flavour Picks for like pure like art or story or whatever, and then we used to do the kind of mechanics and how the mechanics felt flavourfully to the set. A bit more of a Mel episode, I guess you'd call it. This one, and then we stopped doing the mechanics episodes
because it started being a bit redundant,
and
it was also just like 2 whole full episodes of just on the cards on top of the story, you know.
And like we get it, the Boros have to attack, and then that's their ability.
Yeah.
But actually, I think we've gone. This is kind of going back to it because the flavour in this set is so intrinsically tied to. They've really. Like, I think last week we were worried, like, what have they changed in the multiverse? Like, they haven't changed anything. I think story-wise, you could argue they haven't really changed anything. Gameplay-wise, this is almost like a new game. This is like they've done, this is like a Magic board game with like a completely new set of rules going on.
Yeah, well, they've got Plane Chase in the Commander decks coming out with it as well. It very much feels like they've kind of lent back into the quirks of the game and the different, like, I mean, it feels a little bit kind of level-uppy. It feels a little bit mutatey, where you kind of have to grok this whole new mechanic, and it kind of changes how the whole game plays. Like the flavor, I mean, we haven't, full disclosure, neither of us have done a pre-release, right? So we haven't managed to sit down and play against battles as they are, and see kind of how it affects the gameplay, like from a flavor point of view. Like, this is the way the game flows, and you know, does it feel like we're conquering something? Does it feel like the payoffs are worth it? But we don't know. We can only think and surmise. We can't actually like say for sure. But it does feel like, reading up on a lot of the pre-release, write-ups. It does feel like battles do add a different texture to the game, and it certainly adds a new texture to like our perspective of the invasion. Because the other thing we were worried about is going to 30 odd different planes in one set going to feel disjointed, and it kind of doesn't. It just generally feels like Phyrexians versus everywhere, and you've got we've seen the Phyrexian aesthetic, so that's quite easy to identify, and it's actually quite nice to see all of these various different planes have individual little hints of their mechanics, or just like a general, like, they've all got an invasion card, so you kind of see what their forces are going attacking their plane, and then what happens when the plane, succeeds in breaking that siege. What's it called when you break a siege? There's an official war term. I'm not a tactician.
War term?
There's a war term, yeah. Rout? Is it rout? You rout a siege? I can't remember. Anyway, so, big thing. Do you think battles work as a card type?
Interesting. So yeah, let's just jump into it. Battles. I think I'm not sold on them. I'm not sold on them for a flavour reason, and I'm not sold on them for a gameplay reason. Arguably, the individual sort of bits and pieces of them isn't too revolutionary. We've had cards that transform when a certain game action is completed, and we have cards in Planeswalkers that have their own life total, as it were, that you have to attack to do a thing. And they are also very plane chasey in their sort of feel and like what they're trying to like get across with their like different lore flavour of like all the planes and all this kind of thing. I just wonder if it's having these like, if it's just another thing. It's just one thing too many. Do you know what I mean? Like when you sit down to play a game of plane chase, you know that's what you're getting yourself in for. This is like sort of going, haha, other thing that you have to deal with. This is what problems people with Planeswalkers are.
So you think it might be similar to kind of like stickers, of where it's like, it's this other very Because imagine in a few years' time where stickers have kind of faded back out of play, and you might have been playing for a couple of years, picked up a couple of sets, followed on with standard, I mean, whatever, however you're playing it, and then you sit down for a Commander game one day, then, you know, Harry busts out his stickers deck.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, wow, it's this whole thing that I didn't even know existed. Like,
yeah.
Is it going to feel kind of like that? Because the question, I guess, is, this is all the ones that we see within Mum are sieges, right? They're battle-siege, so the subtype siege. And they have said that not all battles going forwards will necessarily be, you know, double-sided, because these aren't MDFCs, they're not TFCs, they're just double-sided cards.
Yeah. You get to do the thing on the back once the thing on the front's been done.
Exactly, yeah. There's no other way to kind of get around. You can't actively transform them.
And they do have transform cards in this set.
Exactly,
as well,
yeah. Which is kind of interesting. I guess it also helps to have that all on the same sheet, because then you've got two-sided... I mean, there's a whole
oh shit, conspiracy.
So, I mean, I guess it's a question of, will this always be the format of them? And probably not, I think, is the answer. And then whether or not that... Because Planeswalkers have to perform within a very specific mould, you know. A lot of people just said, like, oh, they're enchants with activated abilities. And then they started having passive abilities, and it kind of added enough of a twist to them to make them feel a little bit more dynamic and have a little bit more playstyle. So maybe we'll see that going forward. They might simplify. It might be that, you know, that they need to complicate it more, or add a different twist on it, kind of similar to sagas, you know. You had the ones that transform, and then you had ones you could read ahead on. Yeah. So maybe this is just the beginning. We're seeing, and for just the beginning, I think there were like something stupid like 30 of them. Yeah. And so we see various different styles on like what they could do, but they all do the same kind of thing of when they enter the battlefield, something happens, and then once you've defeated them, which is deal a certain amount of damage to them, then you get to exile it and then cast it for its backside. Typically being a creature, occasionally being I think singularly being a planeswalker, and then occasionally being, you know, like an instant sorcery or enchantment. So,
do you think these would have worked better as, you know, like the format conspiracy, like the conspiracy cards used to have conspiracies in the set, which aren't legal outside of like the conspiracy format? And then during the pre-release for all of the original Theros blocks, they had those kind of like purple cards.
Oh yeah, the roles almost that you had to play. At the beginning, like I remember.
Again, not legal outside of the format of the pre-release. And then during the Amonkhet pre-release, although they weren't individual cards, they had like the trial system.
So you think this should have been like a pre-release gimmick rather than embedded into the actual set itself?
And I know what the counterpoint to that is, and that's that. Well, what's the point of printing all this cardboard that no one's ever going to use? Not in this very specific thing, and pre-releases aren't as big as they used to be just because of the virtue of how people play Magic these days, like no event is. I just wonder if it's so removed from the regular like ebb and flow of the game in my mind that I don't know whether it is almost like it's like another format. If they could have made a new format like Planechase, so you could have had like Battle Siege, like MTG Battle Siege. Oh, we're playing a game of Commander today. Should we add some Battle Sieges into it or something? I don't know. I kind of feel like that's just where I'm at with it.
I think that's fair. I think because this is also the first time you've had like a new card type, like distinctive card type. I feel like a lot of people had the same pushback against Planeswalkers, and now they're, you know, an intrinsic part of the game. So I think for the set, I think flavor wise they work really well, because again you get to see every single plane being invaded. You know, they do
very cool.
It is cool. Like imagine you're opening up the invasion to Karsus and then being like, okay, well this is what happened when Phyrexia descended on Karsus, and this is what Karsus said back in response, kind of thing. I like that. I think that's a really cool idea, and I think it presents enough of that immersing yourself into an interplanar, you know, invasion quite well.
If we look at all the planes that are there, I mean, I'm gonna scroll through them, and I'm just gonna name the ones of places that either I don't think we've been to in a set, or that I just don't recognise, and you can maybe expand on some of the ones. So, Alara, Amonkhet, Arcavios, sure.
Asgul specifically Planechase. I think Idol of something of the Cursed Idol was the one for that, where you have to like or Ashen Idol. You have to sacrifice.
Yeah, and the backside is Ashen Reaper.
There we go.
Yeah, Bellanon.
Bellanon is the plane where every single humanoid... Well, they had... this is a good one that you've pulled out on, because originally every single humanoid in it was an anthropomorphization, so there were no humans.
Yeah, you got a Rox and a
elephant folk on even within this set, there is a knight from Bellanon who's a human, so then they had to go back and write every single humanoid except for the humans.
Oh, right, okay.
So there is no humanoid... There are no actual... I think there are no normal animals. I think everything on there is an anthropomorphized humanoid,
sure. Yeah. Then you got Dominaria, Eldraine, Urgamon. Yeah, the green-red one.
Also, I think Planechase specific. We haven't seen much of it. No. I don't know much about Urgamon, to be fair.
Fiora, Gobakan. We got Gobakan back,
Yep.
which was the home plane of what's his jobs?
Teo.
Teo,
Yeah.
Verada from
Exactly.
the War of the Spartan novels.
With the diamond storms.
Yeah,
and the shield
very cool
mages.
concept actually. One of the few sort of good things to come out of that novel. Like a weird choice to have like a brand new protagonist for those books, but cool plane, cool idea, really good aesthetic. Yeah, the shield magic, right? All the shield mages. Then you got Ikoria, Innistrad, Kaladesh, Ixalan, Kaldheim, Kamigawa, Karsus. Tell me about Karsus.
Pass.
Cool name though.
You got me on Karsus.
Kylem, Lorwyn, Marcadia. Great to see Marcadia.
Marcadia, fantastic. And on the flip side, it references Squee and the idea that the other goblins are trying to replicate his heroism. Which
The super smart goblins.
Yeah.
Who are like tall like humans.
Oh, exactly. They're actually like normal fucking great normal people.
Normal?
Well, it's in opposed to being
Normal?
like weird monkeys or being like trapjaw kind of freaky things. Like goblins are always the species that get kind of like biologically flexed into something more odd looking. You know, as opposed to like the cephalists that got made into like, hey, look, sexy squid lady.
I think I bulk at your word. Use the word normal. Stop being human normative about everything.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, I forgot that. In my fantasy game where things can literally be made out of tentacles and stuff, calling something that's slightly more humanoid normal, yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it is.
Sure.
Moag.
It's
a name I recognise.
I do recognise it. Again, I think it's Plane Chase specific. We haven't seen anything else from there yet.
Muruganda.
Muraganda's the place where the of the petroglyphs, the ability, the lack of ability is kind of plain of where everything's normal. It's also where we got our first dinosaur, I believe.
Oh, sure, yeah, I know. New Capenna, New Phyrexia, too many news. Pyrulia
is the Dyson sphere one,
yeah,
where the sun's in the centre and it's all wrapped around. So what's on the outside?
Horizon Canopy.
Horizon Canopy,
yeah,
exactly.
That's it. Yeah. Invasion of Ravnica, the bleakest looking Ravnica art.
It's funny that a multicolour set has a colourless, but I think the idea of that is that when all of the colours are added together, it kind of cancels each other out, and it does that thing of where like it just becomes clear. It's not colourless; it's clear.
Regatha.
I'm scrolling as well. You've got yours is out of order of my one. Regatha is where Chandra went to.
Oh, sure.
Disciples of the Infernos on the flip side.
Yeah. Very cool. Segovia, which is...
wait, pause. We're going to get back to Segovia.
That's Tiny Plane, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll get back to Segovia.
Chandelar, Tarkir, Theros.
Good to see Chandelar.
Yeah. Tolvada. Finally get some lookers at Tolvada.
And we get to see exactly what the sky looks
the
like.
Broken sky
with
the
all the spirits pouring out of it. Fantastic.
Angry
awesome.
ghosts poured through the pummeled the invasion tree, filling the heavens with rhythms of war. Cool. No, it's good. It's nice to see a plane that's not literally destroyed, but is like cracked. Like, literally broken.
It's like a Larid almost, right? Where you know there's this big thing that's wrong with it, but it's not necessarily not carrying on regardless.
Yeah. Old Grother.
We're gonna again. I'm gonna have a little mention of this later, but this is Homeland's plane. This is where Sengi is from and everything.
Yeah, like the original vampire plane.
Exactly, the original vampire plane, which Innistrad kind of took the mantle of.
Get to see Vryn. Vryn's the next one.
Exactly, same thing. I'm glad we're going through this, because actually this cleans up a lot of my honourable mentions. On the backside, on my signal, disable the safeguards. Let's blow these metal freaks right back to their own world. Gav Bellerin.
That's so cool.
Majoring engineer. So there are more Bellerins.
Yeah.
He's got family.
Could be an uncle. Could be
anything. We don't know enough, but it's good to know that they're giving us a little bit more.
Invasion of Xerix.
Again, I'm going to come back to this one. This is one of my favourite picks.
And, of course, Invasion of Zendikar. And, like, the backs... We haven't done all the backsides of these, but some of these are really cool. One of my... If we go back to Invasion of... Let's clear up some of my ones on this one as well. Invasion of Fiora. The backside is a new Marchesa card. That's pretty fucking cool.
So this new, this is weird enough, one of my throwbacks. So the idea, one of my flavour picks was going to be that we keep, the good thing about doing 20 different planes is you get to see various different characters that you might not have seen for a fair while. So while we're talking about Marchesa, I like the fact that when she attacks, you remove all counters for up to one target permanent. So even when she attacks, she automatically defeats any siege, or automatically makes any planeswalker go, fuck no, and run away. Now that's flavourful as fuck. And then it's got this monarchy kind of ability of where if you haven't been dealt damage since your last turn, you draw a card and lose a life. So the idea of same thing of where if someone hasn't hit you, then they haven't taken the crown back from you. And
just as a bit of character development, obviously we've had 2 cards from her, but we did also see, I think we actually did a lore shop video on our YouTube channel. Remember, we have one of those. Where we actually do get quite a lot of cards with Marchesa on it, but only 2 cards that are like legal to play in other formats, Black Rose and Queen. Marchesa Resolute Monarch shows like a brand new side of her where in Queen Marchesa, she's starting to get a little bit of armor because now she wants to protect herself. This is like her as like battle Marchesa.
Well, this is her backing her. Like, so what we saw her like as part of her own syndicate. We see her overtake the throne, and now we see her defending the throne.
Yeah. Sick.
That progression is fantastic. I think more increasingly they'll find ways to go back to Fiora because, side note, Deadly Derision. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, create a treasure token for an instant. Doretti looked down disdainfully. You call yourself machines? Where's the elegance? Nothing but ugly piles of scrap.
Yeah.
He's still around. He's still kicking ass. You know, like they're very much showing us like, hey, don't worry. And I know that we all these different random legends got completed without any real aplomb, and then you did these team ups with these other guys just to kind of give them a heyday because we didn't have enough space for all of them. So we said, oh, let's just put 2 on the same bit of cardboard because at least then we've both got representation.
Yeah,
we are seeing others as well, which is kind of good when there wasn't necessarily space to have another Planeswalker Doretti for no reason.
Yeah.
So.
One of my actual factual flavour picks. See, this is what I was saying earlier. Like, my flavour picks are a little bit chaotic and embedded into what's going on.
Same.
So, apologies if you're looking for a more sort of formatted flavour picks episode. It's not going to be this one. Invasion of Kaldheim is my art flavour pick for the set. Artwork by Brian Soller on both sides. And the reason it's my flavour pick is not really to do it's my art pick rather. I think there's so much good art in this set, and actually there's a couple of ones which I could do as honourable mentions if we had time. But this one makes me hear the metal music. Every time I look at this one, with the boats going across the lava pits towards a Phyrexianized Toski and Sarulf, I hear... Did you ever play the, was it 2016, 2018 Doom?
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
What would you call it? The not remaster, it's... Reboot.
Yeah.
And it's just...
It's just insane. I could listen to Doom like thrash metal all day. It's great.
And that's the same with a lot of the Kaldheim-centric cards in this set. And I like the fact that most of them are depicted, not all of them, but most of them are depicted of being on the realm of Imistrum, which is the war plane, because that's the ones that the Phyrexians would obviously like to go to first, because it's all war and battle. They want to kill everything. It's just... I look at these artworks, and on the backside, Pyre of the World Tree, which is obviously like a big sort of story beat for Kaldheim, because they're blowing up their own world tree to defeat everything, which is pretty massive. But just, it makes... No other artwork makes me hear music. As soon as I listen to it, I just like... I just hear thrash metal music.
Yeah, it does.
It's amazing. Sick. So that's my art pick of the set, just simply because it makes me have my other senses go off. And I fucking love Kaldheim. And any of the naysayers, I think I've said this in several episodes now, most of the naysayers for Kaldheim are just wrong. Kaldheim was a rad set.
It was cool. They just didn't give it enough space.
Needed more space.
Like, that doesn't mean that it was bad, it just was too tightly compacted.
Yeah.
Similarly, if we're talking in battles and embedding our flavour picks into the flow, Grandmother Ravi Sengir on the back of Invasion of Orgratha. People are like, human? Question mark. It's like, well, actually, lesserly known, she's also a planeswalker. So she was never a vampire. She was a friend of Baron Sengir, who was a vampire. It's nice to see her. I think a lot of people are a bit like, oh, she could have been better. It's like, yeah, but like Baron Sengir, when they gave him partner, he could have been better. It's just nice to know that she's still there, she's still around, and perfect flavour text. I do enjoy a good apocalypse. It's just another day for Grandma Ravi Sengir.
The problem is with all of these legacy characters, not legacy as in legacy format, but legacy as in characters that people want to see for a long time. They're never going to live up to your hype. They're just not.
And if they do, they're going to be too broken to get banned.
They're going to make every single character from before 1998 the most busted thing in the world ever. Like, no, come on. Like,
people are saying, like, why don't they make Chandler? And then the rest of the Magic player base goes... Chandler? Question mark?
Yeah.
Chandler who? So, it's that kind of thing of where, you didn't get your precious character come back, but, it shows that they are still playing. Like, they know who's still around, and they will play the beats if they need to. I will say off the back of one flavour thing that was a bit of disappointment, talking about Invasion of Kaldheim, is both Sarulf and Coma were confirmed to be completed in just random cards, and one of them's Sarulf getting killed. And then I think the other one is the green spell of Coma when it's chasing one of the boats. I think it's something, the flavour text is something like Phyrexia was looking for the strongest and most powerful. And in
Cosmic Hunger.
Yeah, and in Coma they found completion or something like that.
The Copper Host saw only the strongest converts. In Coma it found perfection.
Yeah.
So that I'm not saying that the snake necessarily that Tyvar was fighting was Coma, because that's what we were trying to discuss last time. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely, the world snake was... Yeah.
And Mariz said that it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of if to get to see these characters. We're not necessarily going to see... Because I think, I don't know if we've said it already, but Aftermath's only going to be 50 cards or so there's a good chance we're not going to see it.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's literally just a little addition. It's a little annex almost. So it's a shame that we probably won't see a completed Toski or Sarulf or coma. But maybe when we go back to Kaldheim, maybe there'll be... This is the thing, like, who knows if some of the legends stayed alive after completion? It'd be a shame that that Phyrexia completed all of these random legendaries. The oil going stagnant made them all just drop down to the ground, and then we never actually get to see them again. We never see them completion, we never get to see them when they're completed, we never get to see them afterwards. That would be a shame. So hopefully with some of them they can manage to, like, you know, their will burn on. Yeah. Despite.
Another flavour pick for me out of these battle cards, Invasion of New Capenna. So the front side is Invasion of New Capenna enters battlefield. You may sacrifice an artifact or creature. When you do, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls, which is, you know, is whatever. On the back, Holy Frazzle Cannon.
Holy Frazzle Cannon.
Holy Frazzle Cannon, Batman.
Exactly.
Whenever a equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on that creature, and each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. And then the flavour text is, they're using my Halo stockpile for what? Yeah. Jetmir. Just, they have so much fun with Capenna. The more they bring out Capennan cards, the more... obviously just like, now we don't give a shit anymore, they become. But also the more I'm into it, the more I'm like, you can just have one plane where they're like, yeah, sure, they'll have mobile phones next, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I just, Holy Frazzle Cannon. And also, the more and more, there's a whole series of cards kind of double back onto this flavour pick, which really now beds in the idea that, yes, Halo was the kind of anti-Phyrexian substance that we wanted it to be. It's just a shame that in the stories, the Planeswalkers didn't really use it to great effect.
Yeah.
So you have cards, for example, like... Oh, let me find it. Where it is. Oh, yeah. So you've got Halo Charged Scarb, Halo Forager, and Halo Hopper.
Hopper is the cutest little thing.
Just to name a few, but it just shows, like, on all different planes, when the new Capennan Angels flew off to other planes using the portals, they actually did do their job, you know? Like seeing a Scarb on Innistrad being infused with rainbow juice is kind of a cool concept.
Rainbow juice sounds gross. There was another one that does a similar thing, probably by my art flavour pick for the set, which is a bit basic, bitch, because it's Dominic Mayer, and that's Surge of Salvation.
It's not basic, it's just obvious.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like, well, oh yeah, good job, Dominic Mayer does good artwork, well done. Other news, water is wet.
Don't have a go about it.
Anyway, no, he's great. He's fantastic. No Militian had ever laid eyes on an angel, but when protective Halo flooded the multiverse, they knew a divine blessing was at hand. So it's one of those ideas of like, yeah, this is kind of what the flavour of New Capenna should have been at, of where the set kind of goes, like, reinforces the story, rather than goes in a complete different direction and goes, wait, the angels are here, or are they not here? But at least here there's a bit more coherence, as it were. Yeah, it's nice to see it translate into the cards quite well. That's what I mean. Where as a set, we were really worried that this was going to be horrifically garbled because there's going to be too much trying to go on at once. And I've actually kind of done it perfect.
Yeah.
Of where they've managed to hit all of the story beats, kind of show the right amount of threat versus resistance. All of the different beats that happen within the story are happening within the set as well. Like, I don't think any of the story spotlights are necessarily wrong. I think there was one that put a question mark in my mind, which was the seal, blah, 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 blah. Seal from Existence, which is a story spotlight, and I think it's just not necessarily obvious which part of the story it's talking about. I know it's the bit where at some point Ren is flipping new Phyrexia out and flipping Zalfir in, but there's no flavour text because they put the reminder text for Ward on it.
Yes.
So I'm like, get rid of the reminder text for Ward, put some flavour text. I feel like every story spotlight, unless it's really bloody obvious, like Deicide or something, should have flavour text because it's literally part of the story, so you should be telling it. Because if you look at this as a player, and again, the artwork's kind of a little bit abstract, it's not really obvious. Like, you look at that and you go, this is a story spotlight card, what is happening? You don't even necessarily know that's Ren, you know, because it's a slightly abstract version of it. So maybe a little tiny nit.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think the trick they've played here, and it's the same trick that they did in Kaldheim, and it's interesting that it's the same trick because it's almost literally the same thing, is that they had a set which is incredibly diverse, that literally is set on different planes, the same way that Kaldheim is set in different realms. And indeed, within this set, we have different realms of Kaldheim, so it's a box within a box. But the way that Kaldheim unified its visual aesthetic was by having the branches of the world tree in like every third or fourth card. Just being like, this is the same world, even if it's like all disparate. They've done the same thing here, but instead of the Kaldheim world tree, it's Realmbreaker. Itself a copy of the world tree, right? So all of the land arts, all of the invasion cards, most of the cards in general.
I'm literally looking through
will
now.
either have the branches of Realmbreaker or some sort of Phyrexian person in it.
Or the symbol of Phyrexia.
Or like, yeah, exactly. So they've tied it all together visually, which for a set where they've basically... when I first saw this set spoiled, you know, there's that, it's now a really well-used gif, I use it all the time, but that episode of The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror, where Homer's sat in the chair in hell, and the devil goes, "You like donuts, do you? How about all the donuts in the world?" This is Wizard of the Coast going, "Oh, so you like Commander, do you? Well, have all the Commander in the world," because it's basically just Mario Kart. It's just like, yeah, everything, everywhere, all at once. Fucking throw it in, go.
Exactly.
But they've unified it. And instead of it being an incoherent mess, it's like, oh no, this is the Phyrexians.
The aesthetic is actually
Take
a lot
on the multiverse.
stronger.
Yeah.
This brings me on to another one of my favourite picks, Wary Thespian, a green common, very unlike me. When it enters the battlefield or dies Surveil 1, that's not the interesting thing. It's a cat druid as well, which kind of isn't there a performer type now? Isn't there a performer? Like, is it Bard? What were
Bard, I think it was
it's just
Bard.
Bard. Okay, maybe it should have been a Bard if it's a Thespian. Either way, it doesn't matter. Cat Druid. The flavour text. The cabaret performance had veered off script. So how were the acrobats still moving in perfect unison?
Yeah, right.
And you look behind and it's all of these people like trapezes and ribbons, that kind of thing, all with the Phyrexian symbol.
Yeah.
And this is what I think kind of really, really pushes this set kind of to have that coherency is... It creates that ominous omen feeling, where the Mark of Phyrexia spreads before the invasion tree breaches the planes properly. And I think that was something that we didn't necessarily get in the story so much, like in the written story, but it really plays into the set. Along all of the artworks, as we've said, like you see the Realm Breaker coming through, or you see the image of Phyrexia, that line straight through the circle. And you see it on pretty much every single transform card, which are ones which obviously you see them before and after their completion, and all of them have like this omen of Phyrexia kind of in their background or on their person, or accidentally the shadow behind them. It's like Phyrexia is coming. So it's funny that this is a set about the invasion already starting, but we even within this set actually get a little bit of like the invasion building up as well. So there's an actual story progression through the set, not just a glimpse of this is the moment they attack. It's like, no, there's a build up, and then there's an in breath and a release.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really good. It's really good. I mean, there are a few things I think when we get onto some of the other big tentpole mechanics of the set, or big sort of like big swings, that I sort of think I'm not sure. But as a concept, the way that they've gone about it is really, really fantastic. Yeah, go on, talk about the rest of your battles. That's it for me for battles.
So the last one for me is the Invasion of Segovia. I think it's really funny that Elishanon clearly didn't scout necessarily enough. Just went, oh, I know about these 10 planes. It's almost like Elishanon's one of us. Where she knew about all of the planes that we knew about in depth, and the planes we'd gone and had sets on. We'd seen the full mechanics. It's almost like she's like, well, I know on Ravnica that the Dimmer are going to use Surveil magic, and it's one of those kind of things. And when it goes, well, what about when you go to Miraganda, and she goes, dinosaurs? I think dinosaurs, right? Different from that other dinosaur plane and that other mutating dinosaur plane, but it's dinosaurs again, right? And it's like, yeah, sure. What about Segovia? It's like, oh, I'm not sure. Is that the little? Is that the little one? We'll just invade it anyway. And then the problem is that typically when you go to Segovia, you go through a de-sizing if you planeswalk there. Metaphysically, how does that work? I don't fucking know. Like, does anyone know?
Does it even matter?
No.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that going through a plane gate, or however it is, or an omen path, or a plane path, whatever they're going to call them, that Realmbreaker was able to make, doesn't de-size the Phyrexians. No. So the image is a Phyrexian foot in a pond. And what I love about this is, for me, this is one of the cards where they went, we're going all lore on this. This is full flavour. Because the card, when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens with trample. Why does the 1/1 have trample when it doesn't make sense in a normal magic set for a 1/1 to have trample? Because on Segovia, 1/1's really big. Right? I'm imagining their knights and their humans are like 0.25 to 0.25s. And they're like, being a 1/1 is huge. And having trample is relevant on Segovia, but it's not relevant when you scale it down. It doesn't make sense to have that. And then on the backside, Kaitos, Sea Tyrant of Segovia, is a 3/3 legendary serpent. Sea Tyrant of Segovia is the size of a normal elephant. Like, that's hilarious. And all it's doing is wrapping itself around the foot of one single Phyrexian. One single Phyrexian. And, like, the fact that it's quite a powerful card anyway in of itself. Non-creature spells you cast have Convoke, and at the beginning of your end step, untap up to 4 creatures. Yeah. Kind of all of that's like flavor text. Like, the Mel side of this is actually really clever in terms of it's really leaning into, like, this is mechanically, like, how, it would work. But my God, the commitment and the idea of just the foolhardiness, because it will lead into one of my later flavour picks as well, of like, this clearly shows that Elish wasn't the smartest in going invade everywhere all at once. And I don't think, I think the fallacy here is saying, well, she's an idiot. It's like, well, I don't think there was an opportunity to not do that. I think it had to kind of be everywhere Because I don't think
Yeah,
Nissa
it's
had
the hubris of
full
Phyrexia.
control.
It's just
Yeah,
hubris of
I don't
Phyrexia.
think necessarily they had the full control to go, oh, we don't have to go to everywhere at once. It's like, well, if you're doing this, it's kind of going to force you into attacking everyone. I don't think you can necessarily control... I think you can control which portal goes to where, but I think you're not going to be able to control that everywhere's going to get pushed at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see that...
The art for Kate at Citara Segovia by Edgar Sanchez Hidalgo. It's very, very cool. Because it still looks like it's like a quite menacing, powerful creature. Yeah. It just happens to be fucking tiny.
It's a millipede serpent, which is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's just pretty small.
Did you not want to talk about Invasion of Xerx?
No, I don't want to talk about Invasion of Xerx. I want to talk about Xerx Strobe Knights.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll go for it.
So the reason I like Xerx Strobe Knight is, again, comes down to flavour text. Similar vein of Elishnorn invading planes it has no idea about. Phyrexia broke the laws of reality to invade the planes. On Xerx, reality merely bent around the invaders. Now, we don't know much about Xerx. All we know about it is, I think, maybe 1 or 2 cards that we've seen, like, and this is one of them. And the artwork itself is very strange. It's like kaleidoscopic with this human knight charging towards the screen with armor and weapons that we haven't seen on any other plane yet. Now, the thing I like about this is that it's a little bit twisty on like your typical. It almost feels slightly off color. It's a blue card. It's got flying. It's a flying vigilant 2/2, and then you tap to create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance, but only if you've cast 2 or more spells. Now, this is the most Azorius feeling card in the history of Azorius cards, purely because of what Ravnica has defined Azorius cards to be like.
Sure.
But as a mono blue card, this isn't really what blue does. It doesn't typically have vigilance that much. It doesn't typically like tap to make tokens. And this is what I like, is it's kind of a little look at, well, this is what blue looks like on Xerx. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we haven't got a ton. I don't know if we're going to ever go to Xerx. It might be like making a reality-bending plane might not work, because when everything is wrong, nothing looks wrong, you know? If the entire set is freaky, does anything actually end up looking freaky? So this pops to me and stands out to me because it's against like all of the other normal-looking cards. To have a card from Xerx play a little bit against what my expectations would be. And I imagine the Phyrexians would have had the same issue of when they get there, things just weren't quite exactly how they expected.
Yeah.
And it shows, again, a very real and understandable fallacy of how their invasion actually went, and how the hubris of Elishnorn kind of, came about. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, there were 1,000 different MacGuffins, but even on an individual invasion basis, most planes actually had a fairly good... Not most, but some of them very much had a very almost ingrained way of fighting back against them. And at least we get to see that.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. I'm going to go for a bit of a flavour fail, just in the middle of the episode.
Nice, like it.
You actually mentioned it in our last episode, and I looked back through the set and I was like, oh, this is bad. Negate.
Yeah, right? Isn't it?
What's going on?
It's the worst.
What's going on?
It's the worst.
The flavour text is actually not bad. Teferi gave them time, Khan gave them a chance, but it was Malira who paid the ultimate price to free Ajani from Phyrexia's grasp. Fine. What?
Why is his armour going back to gold?
So look, right, so it's Vico Menzies is the artist. There's nothing wrong with the artwork if you were to take the crop of it out and just be like, this is a piece of magic artwork. Absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever. My problem with this, it was the same problem that you had last time as well. Why is this a negate card, right? What spell is it? It's not countering a spell in the moment. Mm-mm. He's already been... It's
a disenchantment, if anything, right?
Yeah. Or destroy artifacts.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. It's a shatter or something like that. It's not... It wasn't... Phyresis isn't an enchantment or a spell. It's a process by which you convert someone's organs and flesh into metal.
Yeah. Secondly, just the concept for this artwork. And again, I don't want to rag on any one individual, but there was because it takes more than one person to devise any bit of art in this game. Like it's art by committee. Why is the process, even if this is an abstract representation, why is the process of de-Phyrexianizing Ajani him like getting magicked back into like his original clothes?
Yeah, where did how is his original armor coming back? Like, and also, yeah, okay, because the twisty geometric thing in the background kind of thing makes sense from a whole like, oh, it's a spell being cast. It's like, but yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't make sense. And
No.
I guess, and the thing is, from a pick it up randomly in 10 years' time kind of perspective, you'd look at it and go, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But from an in-law and understanding how everything worked, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Like, he should just be how he is.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of the Phyrexians is that they use spells and shit, but their whole thing is it's about the flesh and
it's physical change.
turning things physically into something else. So what It's not like this was an overlay onto his like original armor. Yeah, I don't know. Everything about it is just so strange to me. And I just don't think it doesn't even look like it fits with the rest of the set, because we've seen in other like cards or creatures or whatever where we've had representations of people before and after. Like we had the Nahiri card where it was like her
Thrill
face.
of Possibility.
Yeah, Thrill of Possibility. That was a very similar thing to this,
but done well.
But done well. What's going on here? I don't know. So there we go. That's it. I don't think I'm alone in this. I think this is...
No, I think it's very much a disconnect from the story to how it translates. Again, this is where the flavour of the card doesn't necessarily match the flavour of the moment, necessarily. I don't think the process is wrong. It's just what card it's being represented on. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely a bit of a weird one. Another opportunity this set kind of gave us, which was, I kind of spoke about it already, talking about, Doretti and Marchesa and Ravi Sangir. Anarchy Javelineer. Javelineer?
Javelineer.
That is how you say it. It just sounds really weird. A 4 and a red for a 5/4 Ogre Spirit with reach, tap to deal 2 damage to a target player or battle. Oh, that's really important. It's a shitty red comment. Flavor text. With the ways between worlds thrown open, the chain veil's foul magic seeped from a vault deep within Ravnica, all the way to Chandelar's dormant masters.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad, does it?
Doesn't sound ominous whatsoever.
Yeah,
No.
they're
not. That's the thing. They're not dead. They're not gone. They're dormant.
Yeah.
Oh, are we going to get them?
Back.
Are we going to get them? Because that's the thing. What's the next big bad? We
Well,
don't need a big bad.
They're just recycling them all. It's just going to be the chain veil.
But the idea, right, is this the thing that really pissed everyone off? Is like, oh, so nothing even happened with the chain veil. It's like they quite literally buried it for later.
Yeah.
Like we will come back to it with everything else that's going on. Do you want every single big arc to be running concurrently?
Yeah.
Because that's not how it's going to work. Like you need to have some unity and some directive in terms of your story arcs. You can't just have all of these different arcs going on in the background at the same time, because it kind of becomes a bit disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would quite like 4 different arcs all running concurrently, where each of the 4 main sets you get is tackling one of those arcs and progressing it, and maybe one year you'll do 2 sets for this, and maybe one year you'll do 1 set for whatever. I don't mind that, but for the general player base and general upkeep, like it just doesn't work, So it's nice to see they haven't forgotten these threads. They're still there. They're just letting you know. By the way, you can come back to this later. It's not forgotten. Chain Veil still exists, and Raven Man might still happen. We've still got Limdol kicking about, So
we literally do, don't we?
Yeah, literally back from the dead.
Raven Man.
I know.
Oh.
I mean, if anyone's going to come back from the dead, then Necromancer makes sense. But the card again. It's funny because he came up yesterday in a random thread. I looked at his card and went, "Oh, you could have been so much more. You shitty little 2-drop."
Yeah, well, hey, we just literally said not every character can be super powerful.
No, but I mean, the Raven Man bloody should be. Yeah, exactly. But either way, Anarchy's still here. Chain Veil's still around. Don't worry about it, guys. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. All right. Another flavour pick of mine. This is me basically being a little bit self-congratulatory. Congratulatory. Oh, God.
Words. Javelineer.
In an episode, and I couldn't find it. This is why it's annoying. So there is proof, but I can't prove that there's proof. But there's proof. I know it exists.
Yeah, you can find it yourselves if you want to.
Yeah, if you want to double back. We're like 120 something episodes deep. In a very early episode of this very podcast, I think we were talking about maybe the guilds, or we were talking about something where we were chatting about the Simic. It must have been. We must have been talking about the guilds specifically, and I think it was. It was either me or you, obviously, who spoke about the idea that out of all the guilds, who would be like the most susceptible to phyresis, or like what's the most dangerous team-ups, like say if the guilds were suddenly exposed to the rest of the multiverse. And I said, or you said, the Simic, because even though they go about it in different ways, they're all about like body transformation,
grand evolution, right?
Evolution, all that shit. And lo and frickin' behold, Mutagen Connoisseur. 1 green blue for a Vidalcan mutant. No, it took me a second to kind of think about. For Vidalcans, are Vidalcans Simic on Ravnica? And it's like,
Simic. Simic Manipulator is, I think, just a horror actually.
Yeah, but it's definitely Ravnica, because I can see the Ravnican like things in the background. Flying Vigilance, Mutagen Connoisseur gets +1/+0 for each transformed permanent you control. That's kind of a cool. Transform matters. Much to the Phyrexian's delight, sheer curiosity drove many to willingly surrender to completion. Well, fucking who could have guessed it? Because we bloody well did. Yeah. The Simic have just gone, oh yeah, well that's the ultimate in evolution, isn't it?
So this isn't necessarily a bad thing, guys. Like,
Yeah,
this is what we've been telling you.
This is just an
Come
average
on.
Wednesday for us.
This is like we were just doing phoresis with extra steps. Let's go.
I mean, is this not exactly what like Vanifar's sect of the Simic Combine was all about? Like, evolution to the extreme.
Yeah, well, they were also looking at taking the best of both and putting them together, right? This is where you got things like Shamble Shark.
Shamble Shark,
Cloudfred
Raptor.
Yeah, exactly. It was them taking the best bits of both and putting them together. Similar to like, it's almost like Simic were the synthetic version of Ikoria.
Yeah.
Ikoria was like the natural, like what happens when you put evolution on like, into fifth gear and give it extra mana and energy to kind of do what it needs to do. And then the Simic were kind of like forcing it to happen through their own processes. I think it was mentioned in the story as well that it wasn't just the Simic, the Izzet was similarly reckless with it as well.
Of course.
So it's quite nice to again see that it isn't simply just Phyrexia versus the planes. There are some planes that'll be like, hell yeah, motherfucker.
Well, the double back onto the Mutagen Connoisseur is completed Huntmaster, which is one of the elves from Lorwyn. I mean, I guess, because Lorwyn and Shadowmoor have kind of pushed together now, right? So, like, the
Aurora doesn't exist anymore, and I believe it was a few... Again, we won't know until we go back, so please let us go back. I think it ended up being...
they've already let us do that through the battle cards.
Well, I think the idea is that the night and day cycle will be returned to normal, but what that looks like, because I don't think it's... Because the idea was the Aurora created extremes.
Right, okay.
Because it didn't happen very
often.
Well,
let's just say the elves of Shadowmoor... Is it Shadowmoor or is it of Lorwyn are the evilly ones?
Lorwyn.
Alright, okay, so it is Lorwyn, right.
Yeah.
So on Lorwyn, the elves are like an incredibly narcissistic...
the
xenophobic, yeah. And their whole thing is that if you're not beautiful, then you're not worth saving.
You're an eye blight.
Yeah, so you're an eye blight. Some elves are eye blights if they're not perfect. But, completed Huntmaster, the flavor text reads, the elves of Lorwyn... Oh, well, why was I debating it? It's in the fucking flavor text I'm about to quote. The elves of Lorwyn sought perfection. The etched host supplied it. So we're talking about sex on different planes that are absolutely into completion and perfection.
Yep.
I mean, you might argue that the elves weren't into it until they got completed, and then that idea of perfection was what perfection was. But I kind of like the idea that as a group, most of them were like, oh hell yeah, like this is it. Like,
you can make us better. Why not? Why wouldn't we? I think there's an argument that there are certain demographics and certain like things that will take completion better than others. I think the idea of going, you'll have to surrender your free will and go through a really painful process might not be the best sell for most, but a lot of them don't get that. Submerging yourself in oil, for example, isn't necessarily the same as going up against a centurion that goes, I'm going to rip your arm off and replace it with a jacksaw or whatever. Like that's not the same thing. I feel like also for certain denizens like vampires already have immortality. Phyrexia isn't that much better, it's like, I've already got this great immortal thing that I've got going on. What are you offering me? It's interesting that maybe certain species and denizens will be more willing to go, oh yeah, now I've actually, give me that extra power boost, I
mean, talking of Phyrexian vampires, Ichor Drinker is another sort of like...
looks great, right?
It's this is more of like a quick flyby, just because it's got Incubate, which we haven't really spoken about, which is...
generic token maker.
Create an incubator token with 2+1 counters on it, and it has pay to transform this artifact. It transforms into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. So it's like Germ. It's kind of
it's like Germ. The problem is it's flipping. It's a flipping token with counters. It's a lot of busy work in my mind. I think the card. I think as a mechanic, I think it's strong, but I think it is just generic token mechanic.
But this raw Felony artwork on Ichor Drinker is really cool. I can't decide. Is this a new Capennan vampire? Because they've kind of got like the armor of like the...
Yeah, they're looking at the artwork in the background. Yeah, that's definitely a maestro.
Okay, cool.
And the artwork in the window in the background looks
it's very Art Deco. Yeah. But just like, it's just so cool. And the idea that like, a Phyrexian vampire, because vampires, much like goblins, do look very different on different planes. If you think about like, say, Kaladeshian vampires or like Tarkir vampires.
Zendikari vampires.
The whole thing. Yeah. So... But their whole trait is that they feast off the life force of others. So if you're a Phyrexian vampire... Well, surely you would crave Phyrexian oil, so
you'd feasting on
other Phyrexians, which is what they're doing.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it's a different type of liquid to be obsessed over, right? But are you supposed to drink is the oil supposed to replace your blood or replace the food? Do you still need to eat? Like what?
Oh, maybe this is a complete flavor fail then.
Maybe, I don't know, but no, it's more. I think they're playing on the trope, right? And the idea is that again, it doesn't have flavor text, so it kind of ruins it a little bit. Like you're playing on that trope, and it's the same idea that instead of feeding on the blood, now you're feeding on the oil.
Yeah, I just thought it was a rad card.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. I think it's really, really cool card. Yeah, I mean the Phyrexians in general, like I don't want to say this is peak because I feel like peak was being back on New Phyrexia in All Would Be One. But there is some peak Phyrexian designs in this set. Bloated Processor. I think there's also something to be said for any Phyrexian that doesn't have a subtype. It's just creature Phyrexian. It's like a pure Phyrexian. So the idea is that there are the pure ones that are kind of the ones that come with the evasion, and then there are the conversions, right? So there's Converter Beast within the set as well, and then the converted, like the Acolytes or whatever. I can't remember what they call them, but they give them a name for the ones that have been converted rather than being pureborn. And like, is it Brock Grossman? Brock Grossman on Bloated Processor. The artwork is great, and that feels proper old school Sanguine Guard Phyrexians from Dominaria kind of Phyrexians. Like, I like that. As much as it was nice to have the factioning of them and going through the 5 different orthodoxies or whatever, the different styles. It's quite nice to just see back to basic looking like they, just generic Phyrexians.
Yeah. Another Phyrexian design I really loved, if we're talking Phyrexian designs, is a flip card. Nezumi Freewheeler, which is the Rat Samurai on the light bike. And then it flips into Hideous Flesh Wheeler.
Did you just say that's the Rat Samurai on the light bike?
Yeah, this is Magic the Gathering,
This is
Nathan.
Magic the Gathering, guys!
Trust me, it's Magic the Gathering. And it flips into Hideous Flesh Wheeler, which is
It's so ridiculous.
horrible. So it's basically like Elish Norn just took the bike, merged the rat onto it, and then gave it these teeth tentacles.
Yep.
Again, playing into the tooth thing.
Yeah, but probably like molars as well, not like incisors. Like
But like the
looking
head of the
teeth.
rat it's still got the rat teeth, but it's got like the Elish Norn carapace on the top, and it's like still the bike. Freedom became a distasteful memory, a thing to fear and destroy. It's just, obviously this is an audio podcast, we say this all the time. Look up Hideous Flesh Wheeler, it's bananas.
Biker mice from, oh my god, put it back.
Biker mice from hell no!
Exactly. Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of these, I think a lot of the transformation ones really are very effective because you get to see the before and after effect. Because I don't think we got to see that much with like the Sleep Rage. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, we get to see the twisted form of it, but in this you get to see the before and the after. And I think that's
100%.
It's a bit more galling to be like, look how innocent they were before. Oh my god, now they're gone.
How do you feel about Etched Familiar?
It's not the only one either.
Phyrexian Fox. It's not the only reference.
Look what they did to my boy. Yeah.
But
it looks sick as fuck. I'd still pet that. Are you
Filigree
mad?
Familiar turned into Etched Familiar. It's like they completed all of these big characters and like planeswalkers and shit, but really the ones people actually care about are like, what the fuck did you do to my fox?
Yeah, exactly. Why? Leave him alone.
This little cute thing from Kaladesh blog where it's like, hey, like this is kind of an all-rounder and I play it just because it's cute. When Etched Familiar dies, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
It's not even good enough. Unfortunately, it's not good enough for me to want to play in decks, which may be a good thing. I don't need to be reminded of it, but it looks cool as fuck. The aesthetic's great. Weirdly enough, there's another Phyrexian fox, but it's in the Commander set, Volpine Harvester. So they've given me 2 Phyrexian foxes this set, so that's nice. That's good. More foxes for the foxes. Also, the problem with this as well is it's black.
Yeah.
And most of the foxes aren't.
Yeah.
So now if I have to do a fox deck, and I have to find a way to fit black card into it.
Well, just use Morathon. That's what everyone else does.
I even have a copy, but it's Moronophon.
Yeah.
There we go.
Moronothon.
Oh,
I don't want to
so
alienate
funny.
all of our listeners that run Morathon decks. Like, morons.
Yeah, god damn it. Have some pick something more specific. Play less colours, you shills. Good. Right, what's my next flavour pick?
Did you see Adam the Gathering, friend of the podcast, Adam the Gathering, is trying to track down the 001 stamped Kenrith card?
Oh, really?
He's found it.
Really? He found it?
$9,000.
Yeah. The number ones are really expensive.
It's more expensive, though, than any of the other number 1 cards.
Probably because people are sought after. Also, it's the most popular. You can play it as a commander and everything.
It's on a Chinese store. Yeah.
Only uninspired Magic players build Kenrith decks.
Sorry, Adam.
Didn't you also build a Kenrith deck?
Shut up.
Good. Well, since we're on, I'm getting to. I've got none of my. You've done through all of my big ones, and then I just want one thing I kind of want to say as well is okay. We've shown a little bit of throwback to like the little guys, the big guys as well have kind of been done over a little bad. Atali is now a bit. The thing about Atali, I don't care about the rest of the card. I'm not talking about the rest of the card necessarily because it's cool. It does the Atali things, but when it transforms into essentially into a Blightsteel Colossus, an 11/11 trample indestructible. When it deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters, and it's an 11/11. So it's quite nice that they managed to throw a throwback of a Darksteel Colossus because imagine imagine being part of the invasion, part of being on the plane where the Darksteel Colossus is the thing that comes through. I mean, I imagine Ikoria would probably be the place that did it. But man, it's got to be galling. Then we've also seen Polychronos. He come back from the dead after being zombified.
Yeah.
And then immediately gets completed into Engine of Ruin. Weirdly enough, a white-green card. Reach lifelink 6/6. When it dies, you make a 3/3 with green Phyrexian Hydra with Reach, and a 3/3 green Phyrexian Hydra with lifelink. Very, very similar to Wormcoil Engine, replacing the Death Touch with Reach, which I think arguably is probably better, because it's better from a defensive point of view. The Death Touch is fine, but it's quite nice to be able to have the ability to sit back. Chrome Host Seed Shark, which is essentially Cyclonic Rift on a dude. So it's a 2/4 flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you incubate X, where X is the mana value, similar to Shark Typhoon, where you made
they love
flyers.
those flying sharks, right?
Yeah, exactly, which is kind of cool. So if flying sharks weren't enough, now it's flying sharks that release pods that have Phyrexians in them, just to really add to the nightmare fuel.
Well, it's the sequel, isn't it? It's Sharknado 2.
It is, yeah! Incubate Boogaloo. And then the last one that I had that was like, so there is a Sarah Angel analog as well, but the other one that's really direct that I kind of like, but also kind of annoys me, Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. 3 for a legendary artifact. 2, tap, target opponent mills 3 cards, put a land card from their graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control. It gains if this land would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Very similar analog to the World Tree, especially seen in its last ability. 10 generic, tap, sacrifice for Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree, search your library for any number of Praetor cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Now, in my mind, as much as, yes, now we have 3 different versions of all the original Praetors, and then there's also E-Bomb Praetor, and I think there's maybe another couple of random Praetors from back in the day that no one ever plays or uses because they're absolute shite. Why isn't it just Phyrexians, any number of Phyrexians, and put them onto the battlefield? Why is just specifically Praetors?
Yeah.
Kind of annoys me a little bit, because I feel like it would feel much more like an invasion if you go, every one of the Phyrexians in my deck is coming to the party. So there's a slight little flavour fail. I don't think it's too powerful on something that costs 10 mana, to do. Especially since you're already skewing your deck to play Phyrexians anyway. I don't know. I guess it kind of forces you to have to run loads of different Praetors, which means you're running multicoloured. And I guess Alan's going to be really happy, because now he gets to play.
Oh yeah, our friend Alan loves Praetors, and he also loves white lifelink decks.
Yeah,
he's very sort of like
he's Angels and Phyrexia, which is kind of funny when you think about the culmination of this story arc.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he must be loving it. Hi Alan, if you're listening.
Hey.
There's a couple of other characters before we get onto the team ups, because I think that's the last big thing we need to talk about. I mean, a few of the cards that we saw people got transformed into Phyrexians. Ayara, Queen of the Elves on what's it called? Eldraine.
Really, really good story, actually. If you still haven't read the side story, I recommend that one, because Rankle comes across very, very, very well.
Yeah, Rankle seems pretty cool. And yeah, like there's a whole bunch of them. I know there's too much to go on. I mean, we haven't even touched on things like, we get the Elspeth Angel Planeswalker in this. I kind of think that's old news now. We all know. There's another Chandra here, whatever. Teferi's on the backside of one of them, like Zalfir, blah, 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 blah.
Ren's got another fucking mech tree. Whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, whatever.
Fuck the mythics.
Oh, was it Heliod? Heliod becomes blue-white in his flip
side, somehow becoming Phyrexian. I guess becoming Phyrexian gives you greater knowledge. I mean, let's not delve into the flavour implications of a Phyrexianized god, because I don't think they can metaphysically justify how suddenly his Nixian form starts growing appendages.
All I get is people believe in Phyrexia, so he becomes Phyrexian.
Yeah, but is he tangible?
No.
But then, so why are there? It breaks my human on Earth brain, because we don't have access to spirits and stuff like that. But man, there are some things where I'm like, I don't understand how you can make a god machine. It's like an enchantment artifact. These things shouldn't exist in concert. But it's a cool card. I like it, and it's a throwback to Vidalcan Orrery, so that's cool.
All right, here's the thing. Here's the one everyone's been looking after. The team up cards. So this is from the Wizards of the Coast website. The multiverse is learning that the only way to survive, much less hold the line against the Phyrexian onslaught, is to work together. These team-ups prove just how powerful even unlikely allies can be.
Did you read the full article, by the way?
I didn't read the whole thing, no. I didn't have time. I have a life.
Do you know what's funny?
Go on.
Is it kind of the headcanon that I had was massively let down by this article. Most of them is just generically, they were fighting side by side before they realised the only way they could survive was by joining up together.
Yeah.
And there's not really a lot more beyond that. Yeah. There's no direct reason of oh, this person saved this from this situation. And then it even says, at the bottom of most of their little paragraphs it says, and I'm sure they'll go back to fighting afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay.
They're just literally, had they had a little bit more flavour justification, or story justification, narrative, shall I say, justification, I'd feel a bit more behind it. But the fact they were almost kind of showing this article that they just went, what can we throw together?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Kind of undermines their gravitas in my mind. I don't know how you feel about them.
Now, as a concept, I have no issue, because this is the actual sort of reckoning of the whole. You know, he said about how a lot of the key art for this set was people from different planes fighting side by side on the same battlefield, and that's not kind of actually how the narrative direction went. And like even the employees of the company came out and said, yeah, that was more of like an early concept thing that made it all the way to key art stage, but then the narrative team and the design team took a hard left for what was going on, and that wasn't the thing anymore, blah blah blah. This is the combination in that. And I also don't mind that in a mainline set we see people teaming up that A, wouldn't ever do so, or B, we sort of thought were like out of the story for one reason or another. Sure. Like if they were died or their story kind of finished. It's nice to have
confirmation that Hazaret is absolutely still around, has grown her arm back, and is still looking after people.
Yeah, but even if that wasn't the case, like canonically, if you like, they just went, look, we just want to see De Jure and Hazaret like team up and like do whatever else. My problem with these cards, actually no, it's still a good thing. I also do like the fact that each of their alternate artworks are the showcases from the set.
Even if we've not been there before. Yeah. And I think across the board, this really shows, because we say this every set about how much we like them. When you see them all side by side, Magic's a really pretty game.
Yeah.
The normal cards themselves aren't ugly. But the alternate art's all really, really, really cool. And again, side by side, the Ravnica one with the buildings up the side of it. Oh, that's sick.
Tarkia gets a
black and white treatment. Actually, kind of works. Like, I love the fact that we get constellation artworks for all of the different. I guess this also expands into the fact they did Legends from Beyond or something, right?
Yeah.
So they did a bunch of other legends from across the multiverse. This is where the Kenrith is coming out and everything, and they gave all of them the alternate artworks as well, or the alternate art frames. And I think it's just really nice. Showcase of showcases.
Yeah.
Which is actually really, really nice.
Everyone's obviously going nuts over the Ixalan ones because they look like the Power Ranger pods.
Oh, true. Oh, I hadn't thought.
Have you not? That's like all I've seen is people being like, "Go Tyrannosaurus!"
God, I've even got the Italia I pre-ordered is that version. Yeah, it does look like the little symbols, and there was even a dinosaur because that's what the original ones were, weren't they? Oh, that's actually kind of cute. No, I do quite like that now because I like the feathers and the stuff around it as well. Like, I think that's fine. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Well, they're doing a new Power Ranger, like, is it film or TV show with like some of the first couple of generations.
Get ready for the
Rangers.
secret lair, guys.
Well, do you know what? I think that's kind of it. Anyway, what am I saying? The thing that I'm not huge fan of is that almost none of the actual team ups, like thing for thing, are ones that I think I would have even have thought of. Like, I'm not excited for any of them.
Yeah, none of them are like, oh my god, yeah, what happens when these two guys get together?
Yeah. Like Simone, like for example, Simone and Dina, you're like, okay, well, weren't they working together anyway? Like,
yeah, that's that even says in the article. It says even though they're working together, they hadn't actually worked on a project together.
Oh, I get fucked. Exactly. Like Thalia and Gitrog, I don't care.
I don't mind that one so much. Had it not been again for the article just saying Gitrog just didn't like these new slimy things, went to the nearest town and went, oh, Thalia can lead me to more things I can... Again, there was the justification's poor.
Inga and Essica is an interesting one.
That one's sick, because Essica can't travel the realms very easily because World Tree is dead, so she went to find the Omen speakers, and Inga, being the chief of the Omen speakers, is now the eyes for Essica to travel and give
that one works from a flavour perspective. Also, Wayne Reynolds coming back for...
It looks really cool, right? It pops so much.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. Good. Apparently, according to it was one of the longest pieces he's ever done.
Yeah. Hi, Wayne, if you're listening. Love your work.
Hey.
But yeah, and also, I mean, look. I am not going to begrudge them using some of these cards to be a bit funny and be a bit goofy because they are meant to be goofy. So I'm not going to take it away from them. I'm just going to flag a card that, again, is another example of please don't make this the main, like, sense of humour and magic. And that's Yargle and Multani.
Yeah.
I've heard, I mean, this is talk about flavour text. This text block is all flavour text. I've heard much about you from my daughter, Multani rumbled. There was a time when I'd balk at your aid, Phantom, but she has shown me the merit of Urbog's strange ways. Replied Yargle.
Do you get it?
Now, I being a bit mean-spirited, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But again, why like Yargle even got a secret lair? Come on, Magic Community,
Leave it
what are we
alone.
doing?
Leave it alone. Yeah.
Baral and Carrie Zev. The only reason, like, this is a real classic, like, you know, bad guy, good guy fighting along side by side. Isn't Baral like psychotically evil though?
Yeah. Again, in the article, it says specifically that the only reason he teams up with her is because there's when the invasion happens, it cracks his cell, he gets out, he finds himself in a situation of where Carrie's like, well, either you join me or I push you overboard, and he goes, okay, I'll help you out. And then Carrie Rev even at the end of the article says, well, I'm sure as soon as the invasion's over, we'll be go back to being enemies
because
again.
in the showcase artwork, because they're the Kaladesh inventions, right? It's a statue to Carrie and Baral.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Do you reckon Chandra goes back to Kaladesh and like,
what the fuck?
What is this?
What are you doing? Immediately melts
a murderer!
It's like, dude, it's like, no, he's a good guy now, he's a good guy. It's like, fuck. Yeah, exactly, like, no. Yeah, it's a bit weird. There is a little bit of a generic disconnect, I feel like, of where the showcases are just like, oh, okay, yeah, it was whatever it was of the plane. It does feel a little bit washy, of like, oh, we'll just do it with all of them. And I think I just say that because, in general, the design feels a little lazy as well sometimes, of where sometimes the pair-up card is actually worse than either of the individuals.
Sure.
It's almost like they had to dilute both of them to put the cards together, and then the individual card itself is actually just an overcomplicated, less powerful version of either.
And it doesn't
of them.
feel like a team-up between the two of them.
It feels like a clunky mismatch of text, of flavor, of rules text when you're reading it. The only one that kind of is really succinct is Yargle and Multani, and even then, it's a bit esoteric because you have to realise, oh, it's just Yargle twice.
Yeah.
Instead of being a 9-3, it's now an 18-6 because all Multani is a big dude, and all Yargle was a big dude, so obviously it just makes a bigger dude.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like sometimes the combination of the abilities just doesn't... Like, for Aran and Giada, for example, they just use completely different abilities. Aran doesn't have the looking at the top card, and Giada doesn't have you may cast spells with flash or fly from the top of your library. Just as a card, it's probably one of the better ones as well in terms of being powerful, but neither of the text actually plays to either of their abilities originally. Yeah. Whereas something like Borborygmus and Fibblethip, cool, it has the putting back into the library kind of aspect of Fibblethip, and it has the discarding cards to deal damage that Borborygmus has, but as a card, it can only target creatures, so it's really actually not very powerful. And as a commander, if you want to run this pairing, be like, oh, this is a really cool pairing, it's not powerful. And you'd have to build your whole deck around it to even make it slightly playable, and even then, it still wouldn't be very powerful. And I feel like it kind of undermines a little bit some of the combinations. I think the Thala and Gitrog is just inherently powerful. It's a lands card. You know, Zamon and Dina is a Sultai value card. Like, there are some of them that are just automatically quite good. But there are others that, like Hidetsugu and Kairi, where you have to build your whole deck around your commander dying to get the full effect of it, and it kind of then plays against any of the interest that I have in it. And I think from a Mel into Vorthos point of view, I just don't feel... It doesn't make sense that some of these characters are joining up from a flavour point of view, and it doesn't make sense that some of these text boxes are joining up from a mechanical point of view.
Yeah.
So for both situations, I feel like it just doesn't quite hit the mark. And once you get over the whole, oh my god, guys, have you seen who's joining up together? And once you get over the whole, Cogler's throwing Phyrexians into Yadaro's back spikes. How cool is that? It's like, yeah, but have you seen how unplayable the card is? Which, like, you know, these are game pieces after all. And yes, this is a Flavour Picks episode, but the flavour of the card has to make it feel worth playing, you know, and feel cool when you're playing it. And some of them just don't quite do that. Which is a shame. But again, I'd rather that than them being all overhyped massive mythics, you know. And then you have to play them, and it has to be, oh, this is the fourth Kogler and Yadaro deck that I faced this week. Like, it feels like you have to put more effort into making these decks work, which is probably a good thing in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I don't, like, you know, they're fine. I think, you know, some of the picks are interesting. You have, like, Fibblethip and Borborygmus.
Two Cyclopsy kind of things.
Yeah, but didn't they already do that with Zyndasplit?
Yeah, it's almost like they're running out of jokes to tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've got an angel and a vampire together, because that's crazy. It's like, but you just gave us Rudolph, the angel vampire.
Yeah.
So you've already done that type line, literally this year in a Jumpstart set. Yeah. So it's no longer interesting. You know, human god. You didn't just do it once; you did it twice.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like there's almost an unsetty flex to this, which doesn't quite go too far. Doesn't quite feel twee.
No.
But it definitely feels like it's there a little.
Well, again, this is it. This is them thinking like, what do you look at when you look at a commander board state and you see all these guys next to each other, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't hate it. As a concept, it's fine. Again, it really makes it feel like the multiverse is coming together, albeit obviously they're on their own planes. But like, you know, all these stories are kind of crashing into each other. I suppose people were looking forward to seeing, like, I don't know, fucking Thalia and Zimone. Let's just pick two random characters fighting alongside each other. What would that look like?
Yeah, the fact they didn't go from different planes joining up is annoying a little bit, and the fact that we had a hint of this with the Firestorm card from Dominaria United. We haven't seen any legendary creatures with planeswalkers join up. So those were the two combinations I think I was looking forward to: is seeing a planeswalker with a generic mage, or seeing denizens from different planes teaming up, because we didn't get that. It was all still within universe.
To finish off on a nice note with these things, again looking at the alternate artworks, the showcase for the Eldraine, Rankle and Torbrand, which shows them beating up a Phyrexianized Jabberwock. Right? Yeah. Is really good.
It's beautiful. No, it's not. It's Omar Ryan.
Oh, Omar Ryan. Yeah, it's
similar kind of style that Nils Ham has. That kind of that Fey feeling. Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. All right. I mean, there's too much to talk about. We haven't even spoken about the Planeswalkers. We haven't spoken about the Elspeth cards. No. We haven't spoken about all of the flip cards. There's just too much. This set is jam-packed with flavour. And you know what? I think this is not that it's not for me, but this is one of those sets where I think everything they did was a very worthy attempt at what they were doing. Some of it didn't hit, some of it did. But all in all, I think this is a really fitting set for what they were trying to do, flavourfully speaking. Yeah. Mechanically speaking, they've obviously made it feel quite grand. And yeah, it does. It feels like a battle across the multiverse.
And it's done quite well. And from what I can tell, it plays really well as well. So, hey. Well done, Wizards. Good job.
Good job.
This has been the year of, I don't know if they're going to pull this off. And then they did.
Yeah. The Commander decks look alright.
They're fine.
They're fine. They've also got team-ups like Lier and Catilda is in one of them.
Yeah, we might do a little... do a little Commander retrospect, because there's not necessarily enough to talk about for a whole episode of any individual Commander set, but when the ones for the annual one comes out, it might be worth looking at some of the other ones from the other sets and doing a little throwback, because there are some cool cards within it. Yeah, can't argue, man. And again, like doing the showcases for all of these extra Legends Across the Multiverse, doing the anime treatment or comic treatment for all of the companions. Yeah, they look dank. I think a lot. I mean, Ayara, the alternate version of Ayara, again by Omarion, like looks phenomenal. I think it's a really pretty set to open. Good. Sorry for the roadworks as well, which went in gusto towards the end there as well. Oh,
cool. God, well, let us know on Twitter at MTFlavouring what you found interesting in these sets. What team-ups would you have wanted to see but didn't get? Just go complete headcanon.
That's a future episode we should definitely do.
What, different team-ups?
Design some team-ups from across the multiverse.
Yeah, I reckon so. That'd be cool. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Nice. Emails go to mtflavouring@gmail.com. My personal Twitter is at AndyManface. Nathan's yours is
at the Fox in the Moon.
Please tell your friends about this podcast. We haven't done one of those kind of shout outs for quite a while, but if you know anyone who likes the flavour of the game, as we said in like previous episodes, the sort of flavour aspect of this game is becoming so much more accepted and like a forerunner part of this game. I was again talking to someone else the other day about Magic who didn't know anything about Magic the Gathering, but liked Magic fantasy IPs, and they were just immediately enthralled. So that's why even seeing a single card, me just describing what the setup of the world is, or the multiverse. So yeah, please do tell your mates if you want to give them something new to listen to.
D&D film into D&D game into D&D beyond multiverse. I mean, there's a through line now from like pop culture right into Magic, which I think is quite clever. So yeah, let's try and cross pollinate. Does that always sound weird when I say it?
It does sound weird. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Flavour.
We'll see you soon.